some reciprocity. See, no one loves you more than me, and no one ever will, no matter how I think we've grown. You always seem to let me know it ain't working, it ain't working, no. And when I try to walk away, you hurt yourself to make me stay. It's crazy, this is crazy.
Thank you for that, Jaco.
Thank you, Lauryn Hill.
All right. Well, we have some people filtering in on Facebook. Thank you all for coming. This is day 3 of our rendition of Intersections Solo Festival. A huge shout out and thank you to Jay Ruby, who has helped craft this festival from the beginning of its conception in 2019 all the way until now. Huge gratitude to Ruth Pongstefone as well for being the mentor to the students who have really taken on the challenge of having a digital festival in 2021. Thank you to both of those mentors and all the other mentors, Jaco Schiller, the many people who have been part of this, all of the performers, and all of the resources that have brought us together in this festival. We have about 5 more minutes until our performance will begin. So if everyone could hold tight, we will begin our performances shortly at 6 o'clock.
Freedom, 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 freedom. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, alone. Way from home. Freedom, 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 no freedom, 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 freedom. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Oh, sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Oh, sometimes I feel alone. Way, long, long way, way from home. Freedom, 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 oh freedom. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, alone way from home.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jaco. Once again, welcome to day 3 of our rendition of Intersection Solo Festival. This evening is our final evening of performances. We are members of Prescott College Performance Lab. This is Jaco Schiller, Sivan Sartin, and my other colleague Illasiea Gray is here this evening as well. So to get started, the first performance for tonight's program is called Proclamation of the United States of America, the Utopian States of America, The second performance that you'll be seeing this evening is an original song performed by Syd Roy called Overcome/Cop in the Head. Finally, the third performance that you'll be seeing this evening is by Grace Diorio, is going to be performing Act 5, Scene 1 of A Midsummer Night's Dream. With that said, we will get started with our first performance for this evening. It is a radio play, which means that you will not be able to see any of the actors this evening. You will be able to hear our voices like we are coming through as if we were a podcast that you are listening to. So please feel free to eat your dinner, lounge in your PJs, walk around, maybe fold some laundry, and just take in this story that we have collaboratively scripted and created together. So this radio play called Proclamation of the Utopian States of America is both a process and a product. Many years of research, action, integration, and praxis have constructed the framework which we have used to create and perform this piece. Tonight, you will see the product of collaborative autoethnography as dramaturgy. The process of collaborative autoethnography as dramaturgy is the research tool and methodology of performance lab mentor Ruth Pong-Stefone, who has used collaborative autoethnography as dramaturgy to generate new knowledge about social behavior through a democratic creative process with her students since 2005. In the emergence of this research/curriculum that Ruth is using, she used this collaborative autoethnographic dramaturgy process with students in Thailand who were part of the Bangkok International Exchange. The goal of this research was to explore the possibilities of using theater as a language for development of international democracy. So the script template that we used, the performers for tonight, and the process of how we came about with the lines of the play was by responding to weekly prompts during our mentored study. And this was informed by Ruth's earlier projects with students from NYU and Thammasat University in Bangkok in 2004. Their first production made from this process was a performance called Proclamation of the Internationalen Utopia and was supported by the US Embassy in Bangkok. This is Ruth Pong-Stefone's curriculum and ongoing research, which has been adapted for the first time in the United States with American students, and that is us. It has been used internationally and has now adapted this process to work with a new group of students with a different ethnography. The process of using collaborative autoethnography to generate this performance follows the best practices of ethical inquiry as a research methodology. This is adapted a little bit from Judith Lapidat's presentation on ethical inquiry published in 2017. The process of our research and performance generation and the product of what that is what you will see tonight, it is based in ethical inquiry. It is reflexive and adaptive. It is democratic. It is based on personal narratives. It includes emotions and is relationally focused. It is accessible. We have all explored what it means for us to take on the view from the other side. It is critical. It aims to dismantle systems of oppression and interrupts internal narratives of oppression and limitation. And it aims to make a difference. Now, some of the challenges of autoethnography as an individual researcher is that the findings of the research, excuse me, can be quite narrow. And there is no way to evaluate or necessarily audit the data from the individual researchers' self-analysis of themselves. So to expand from autoethnography to collaborative autoethnography, we find that we have a more equitable voice in the research and in the final product together. We have definitely gained trust as co-researchers and artists together as peers. We really dismantled some hierarchical structures in the process of making this. All of the students who were part of making this performance have gone through are going through some higher education, but we are all at different points in that higher education. Some of us are still in our undergrad. Some of us have recently graduated with bachelor's degrees. Some of us are obtaining our master's, and our mentor, Ruth Pong-Stefone, is also has a master's, but is always learning as well still. The final advantage that we really found in this form of collaborative autoethnographic research is dramaturgy, is that we gained multiple perspectives from each other, and it really helped us work through any kind of ethical issues, such as portraying the other or exploring ideas about what it could mean to be other than, or to be the one who is othering someone else. With that said, I hand the microphone over to my co-researcher and peer artist, Sivan Sartin.
Thank you, Cooper. So like Cooper said earlier, the benefit of collaborative autoethnography as dramaturgy is that this isn't just a course in how to feel better about ourselves or a situation. This is really a research endeavor into how do we make embodied change within ourselves, and how do we engage in a praxis in the communities in which we live. So I am all about autoethnography, collaborative autoethnography, because it doesn't try and separate the individual from the environment, because in the end we are products of our environment, so it all needs to be in the research. And that's what we've done here, and we're so excited to share this ongoing process with all of you. Without much further, I think I'll just say thank you again to Ruth Pong-Stefone for engaging us in your ongoing social research and liberatory praxis.
We will begin momentarily.
Proclamation of the Utopian States of America by Emma Cooper, Illasiea Gray, Sivan Sartin, and Jaco Schiller.
Act 1, Where We Live. Kissing the train of a pink chiffon bride, she carried me through that door and whispered, "You are highly employable." When I'm falling asleep, I hear her golden bell ring and feel her willow hands. She knew 4 languages, but we never spoke in Dutch at school. Mother hated her, but smiled at her very nicely and gave her white tulips on the first day. I remember caramel apples around autumn. Then winter chased us in the field, catching us one by one, sweeping us from the backs of our feet like little pieces of dust. Well, that year, rain made the creek flood. But what was I supposed to do? A little boy disappeared. We think he fell in, trying to get a good look. So we zipped our shoes and buttoned our hats and cried at the frozen lake. We asked, how could this happen? And what will we do? But there was nothing left to talk about after that.
I mean, look, I've just been working so hard. All I want to do is just sit here and look at bugs. Is that really just such an outlandish thing to do? I mean, just come on.
When I think of my idea of self as a United States citizen, many things come to mind. I think about the challenges and disconnects there are as a Black person in America. I used to have a lot of pride about being American and about this country. And I realized this was unfortunately because of what I was taught in K through 12. The way the education system frames America is full of wonder and pride and strength and the greatest country in the world, right? But wrong. There's so much I didn't know or realize about this country that is just so painful. And we're still dealing with the ramifications of these things today.
In your USA, who are you afraid of?
In your USA, do you carry a gun?
In your USA, what does self-care look like?
How about in your USA? Do you even go outside?
In your USA, do you see your own culture?
In your USA, what is good education?
Their USA is complicated too.
Their USA is competitive.
In their USA, they want independence.
In their USA, they want privacy.
In their USA, change is unnecessary.
Their USA is perfect.
Who am I to you? You see me drinking, numbing myself, trying to escape. My earbuds are plugged in, but you see me unplugged, disconnected, removed, isolated. You might see me as you are, uncivil, a rebel, trapped in capitalism, consumed in consumerism. You see my darkness, and my presence may intimidate you. However, I often find myself pretending to blend into the fabric of United States culture, in which case you may recognize my inauthenticity. You see, I am incomplete and longing for transcendence.
I am something between Gen Z and millennial. I live for enjoyment, not for employment. Yeah, I read that book in high school, but I don't remember much about it. Revolution? That's a movie I pay to watch. Violence is never the answer, but like, can you just tell me when it's time to take up arms or whatever? Babe, did you see that new documentary? Go make a post about it. Hashtag vegan, hashtag wild child, hashtag free spirit. Bro, if you're not reposting, are you even a person?
Who am I to you? Happy mystery in a conflicted America. Two different Americas. Two different sets of rules.
Who am I to you? You see, everyone sees me as an authority for having the body that I do. White cops, the gatekeeper of social order, social sovereignty, and safety in this country. They look to me for approval, whereas those same eyes, those same cops, they prey on my friends. They see my body, and they see themselves reflected back at them. How I see myself within the social fabric of the United States culture, though, is quite different. To you, I'm a pair of light eyes. I'm a mystery to ponder late at night, and none of these are satisfactory.
Who are you to me? Well, I see you staring down at me from the heavens. Your eyes are filled with excitement, mystery, and uncertainty. Hell, you could be thinking anything. Still, I find comfort in your gaze, but I wonder what it is you see. You're probably judging me hard. I don't blame you. You, all high and mighty, your confidence seems flawless, and your body dances with each movement. You rise above the clouds, floating majestically, and I'll never reach you.
Ugh! You are my dad and my son, and you are friendlier with them than you are with me. You are the news anchor who cries when the camera is off. Remember on the 4th of July when you poured neon blue vodka slushy down my throat and put a hot dog in each of my hands? I woke up 10 hours later and the TV had nothing new to say. You fucked me over twice. Once for following your rules by accident, and then again for following your rules on purpose. Lead me to water and drown me in patriotism. I see you trying to lick your lips. I cringe. I hold a glass of tall, cold water, and I drink it in front of you. I hear a crackling sound when you try to speak like a death rattle. You are decaying, and I mock your demise by dressing myself and my friends in second-hand opulence.
Who are you to me? Oftentimes, I feel like the outside world is chaos, literally and figuratively. Always going, always needing, always taking, invading privacy, judging, projecting, lacking empathy, lacking space, lacking a calm, lacking peace.
Who are you to me? Well, I guess it's kind of embarrassing, but I guess I can say this. Because you are not me, it's easy to feel like you're better than me, you know? When the cop in my head gets the best of me, you are a threat to my safety. I know it's ridiculous, but it's kind of always there. You are the actor onto which I project my deepest insecurities. You are the manifestation of the stories I'm afraid of. And I can easily hate you, but I'm also eager to love you.
Who are we together? we are timid. Some days we are completely handicapped by fear. We create a shell of security where we hide from each other. We may come out and play, but for the most part, we are scared of connection. Scared we might actually learn something about each other, and in the process learn something about ourselves. We might grow to love and hate each other. We're pretty much codependent with a restraining order.
Okay, we together are an experiment. No hypothesis. No one true methodology. We are an offering and a receiving. We are farmers, teachers, actors, storytellers, magicians, leaders, followers, and experts. Collectively, we disagree on much, but we all want to coexist.
Yeah, I mean, we should be leading with openness, willingness, generosity, curiosity, love, and respect. Dancing freely, front flipping through life, breaking bread, and playing cards in a circle.
I mean, like, yeah, but come on, I mean, we're all just strangers, right? Trying our best to stay out of each other's way, you know? Life's hard enough here. I gotta say it. A lot of times we're a nuisance to each other, trying to exist in the same town and all. Some people call us all Americans, but we're not all true Americans. No. According to the law, some of us just don't make the cut. So, what are you gonna do with that?
Them. Them. Them? Them. Them is what makes us detached. An island of hopeless freedom. The others look down at us. Although we are taught that we are above them, we see true humanity in the others to the point of objectification. We feel we are cultureless in our wealth and privilege, causing us to romanticize the others as all-knowing teachers and spiritual guides. So they look down at us, wondering why the home of the free is the land of slavery and oppression. They offer your hands to lift us up. You teach us the value of community, self-love, and interconnection. And yet somehow, you still want to help us, even though we have brutalized you with complete apathy.
They? Well, they are humans, just like me. They are me. We all have so much in common, but are each unique. We are each one of a kind. But we're all one.
They are self-sufficient. They are ready for the next chapter of history without needing to be main characters. They are exchanging culture when we are not in the room, and they know how to be human. They are holding hands, giving birth, growing food, dancing, and praying. The theater of them is serious and light, familiar and distant, recognizable and foreign.
Who are they? Well, I'll tell you what everyone's been waiting to hear. We just don't understand them. And that's just how it is. They don't speak English, so yeah. They eat food that seems ridiculous to even consider touching, you know? I mean, like, they are who we see on YouTube doing funny things. They're dirty, barefoot and all, you know? Their clothes look unnecessary and even threatening sometimes. They smell funny, too. I've heard rumors that they're trying to steal our livelihood, so yeah, that's who our military is protecting us against. And that, you know, that indeed is why we need strong leaders who act in our best interest. And I'll tell you this. All them white liberals, they march on streets. They're just performing some kind of way to make their friends think that they don't think this way. But they do. I know they do.
Act 2. How it is and how it should be. The land I live with, eat with, and teach with, and share with you is stolen. This land has history which goes back long before you and I ever lived here. This place belongs to Yavapai, Apache, and Hohokam peoples, who are still taking care of and protecting this land today. They are still here, and we have a lot to learn from them. Learn and teach in the language of your neighbor. Plant your gardens next to one another and eat together. Remember the stories you share. Tell them often, often enough so that they will not be forgotten. Don't hide the stories from the children. They watch and copy you. They are not too young to understand why. Recognize yourself in the world and the world in you, reflecting like a mirror of empathy. We are all in crisis. We are all in conflict. We are all vulnerable to something. Peace be to all beings who are suffering, near and distant, oppressor and oppressed alike. We will not take pity. We will take action.
The dream. You know, Martin Luther King had a dream that one day we would rise up, get up, stand up, tall, don't fall. That we should all be equality. That we should judge a person not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. If only freedom, understanding, empathy. You see how it is versus how it should be. How we live versus how it could be. It could be so simple. It could all be so simple. This life for you and me. If we looked at one another as we, you and me, there is so much hatred, so much deflection, so much pain in every direction. And I just want to be free. Free of harm, free of trauma, free of being alarmed, free of fear of police, free of fear of mass shootings, free of the pandemic, free of a mask, free. Living in peace, in harmony, the dream. But then I wake up.
Yes, it is a dream. Because we're asleep. No. We're never waking up. Wokeness destroys the dream, isolates reality from transformation. And so we must dream always. I personally dream of naked people, exposing their strength through their vulnerability, I dream of people who accept their ignorance, where the mind is a child and knowledge is a whirlpool. I dream of music in the streets, expressing the love of humanity without walls. And the land will no longer be owned. I dream we can learn to share, end the competition. I dream of endless ocean, where infinity reflects the sun into billions of rippling stars. That is a lesson of permanent transformation and resistance to conformity. I dream of support for the unsupported, the missing persons. Let the unseen be seen. Familiarize what is unfamiliar and defamiliarize the familiar. Stay dreaming, and don't you dare wake up.
No.
Oh, God,
That's not
why?
what I
Like,
said.
are you
You're
serious?
not
That's
How do you
you
even think that's really what you, like, that's not what
I knew I shouldn't have come here. The flyer said political theater. That should have been a red flag for me. You actors up there think you know how to fix things?
Right. No one even has time for this. I'm barely making it by on minimum wage. What makes you think I have time to get to know my neighbors?
I don't think a talkback about democracy is going to change anything. You see, the US was built on a fantasy of a faraway place where Greek gods sat up in the sky and enslaved people. This isn't Greece. This is America. We're better than that. Their democracy didn't last for a reason.
You really think the US is better than that? Check your history. And last I heard, slavery today just goes by a different name.
Well, maybe if we weren't demonizing each other all the time, maybe we could actually just agree to disagree.
Let's not forget about the Constitution. It was made to protect the best interest of the people. You see, there is hope for this country. We just have to conserve our original truths.
First of all, the Constitution was made to protect the best interests of a very few rich white men. Second of all, conserving the original truth is not what the founding fathers intended to do with the Constitution. Do you know your amendments? Now, those were made so that society could adjust the laws that we live by as we evolve and change. So here we are evolving and doing a whole hell of a lot of changing. And what are we going to do about it? No, what are you going to do about it?
I have no moral obligation to anyone except myself. You can't force me to do anything.
Then there is no hope. Act 3, New Amendments. No person is an island, completed by and within themselves. Each being is a civilization of their own, and yet part of the world. If you should be swept away by the river, it causes something to change somewhere else, as well as a tree being cut down, as well as reaching for a taser but grabbing a gun, or if a friend will go with you or without you. Your choice to hope liberates me, for I am part of our dream. Therefore, do not send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. We amend that public education provides meaningful and sufficient educational opportunities to all students. No lesson shall discriminate against, erase, or subvert the oral, written, or otherwise expressed knowledge or existence of practices within those communities. Students have the right to be in schools where they are represented by teachers and administrators. We amend that all commissions on higher learning are required to monitor and engage with the provision of adequate and sufficient development towards research-based, individually appropriate, and culturally sustaining liberatory education in all universities and colleges which receive federal funding.
Amendment Freedom from Discrimination. Section 1. In this new amendment to the Constitution of America, we allow no discrimination of any kind, including but not limited to isms, racism, sexism, ageism, ableism, no body shaming, no targeting members of any communities, including but not limited to race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, no hate crimes. Section 2. Discrimination of any kind, written, physical, verbal, will be punishable by law, including but not limited to by way of fines, by way of freedoms taken away, by way of quarantine, by way of increased monthly rent or mortgages, by way of increased taxes on your goods, by way of discriminatory person reporting. Amendment Mental Health. Section 1. All citizens will have mental health resources and check-ins with a professional at no cost, twice a month, required by law, enforced by workplaces, schools, places of worship, etc. Section 2. Mandatory rest periods during workdays, up to 2 hours. For those who work the standard Monday through Friday work week, weekends will increase to truly include Friday. For those citizens who work on weekends, this is allowed. However, every citizen must have 3 full days off from labor.
Amendment of Permanent Revolution. In this country, we will recognize the fragility of democracy and freedom. In revising and rewriting our national documents, we must remember the critical position of disharmony in order to democratically envision and generate utopia. We propose an eradication of certainty. Education will reflect the impermanence of law and order, cultivating a sense of constant experimentation to justify what justice means to all of us together in the present moment. Hegel tells us that what we have learned from history is that we don't learn from history. This is why we propose abolition of linear time. The future does not imply progress. In our world, we see the present as a moment of transformation and healing, a moment interconnected with perceived past and perceived future. Suffering and genocide is not unique to a particular time in history. It is immortal and is both the obstacle and the tool to generate utopia. This is what makes disharmony and chaos necessary for improvement. But alas, enough dead bodies, enough families locked away from each other. The human condition is only so resilient. We demand eradication of binary constructs that oppress us while remaining aware of the inherent need for duality to keep our minds critical through discourse and debate. We demand deprivatization and the removal of capitalist modes of production from our economy. Wealth redistribution is essential in rebuilding society. But wealth is not the leading tool of improvement. Our amendment is not one of law, but one of mentality. Utopia depends on the creativity and resourcefulness of the people. So decarcerate the American mind and liberate the American body from stagnancy. Our USA is democratic because it changes, and we, the people, are the change.
Which brings me to this. Vibrancy and connection in our communities, the core of any good democracy. This is suffering due to the insidious and increasing threat of the prison industrial complex. Let's get into it. It is deemed patriotic, yes, to consider our nation great and having long surpassed darker days. However, those dark days are still upon us.
Slavery is merely disguised today under a different name, prison labor. A disproportionate amount of the cells of private prisons are occupied by folks of color. Prison labor, as free labor, has given corporations the capital incentive to privatize prisons. The very occupancy of one of those cells validates the perceived need for private prisons and ensures these private corporations their tax dollars. Access to community must be a human right. Isolation does us no good. Prison labor is deemed legal under the U.S. Constitution. 13th Amendment, Section 1, it is stated, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. In order to ensure a more equitable society, we need to take away any monetary incentive to demobilize, imprison, or isolate people from their community. What we need is a revision of the 13th Amendment, and that is what we are going to do.
Act 4. What if we? A proclamation for the Utopian States of America.
A farewell letter to a dying flare. You are not new. When Persian forces invaded Athens, their democracy fell too, so it is nothing new that the light is dimming. There is no gladiator army invading the White House. Well, you shouldn't be alarmed by it. Evolution takes its course. We rise and we fall just like the ocean that I miss so much. Evolution is a constant force. It never stops, always transforming and cycling in a chaos that democracy tries to organize. But what is democracy?
Democracy exists because of conflict. Your gilded era of compromise is over. Luxury is transparent. Opulence is for... Well, you are not new. Your ideas are borrowed. Nothing here is new, but it is all original. The manifesto, birth of a human thought, created consciously together, without compromise, without negotiation. These are the terms which we endow upon ourselves, without alienation from each other, from the planet, or from transformation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. We are endowed with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This really means life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all, at all times. We, the people, will create a government to enforce these rights and elect officials we deem qualified to lead. If the government and the elected officials thereof are trash, we, the people, will seek accountability and expect consequences. Not cancel culture, accountability culture is what is to be normalized. If the government is still destructive, we, the people, will abolish it. As with destructive police forces, we will defund, reform, abolish our government. Hashtag if we must. We, the people, will build new foundations of trust built on love, understanding, empathy, and togetherness. This is our purpose. This is our goal.
Nina says freedom is no fear, but fear is everywhere, paralyzing us into submission. So as long as there's fear, there's no freedom, no democracy. The illusion of security perpetuates the illusion of freedom. But what if we felt fear through our collective body, the living organism of humanity? Our fear is not a sickness requiring treatment. It is our proof of living. What if our fear no longer caused us to victimize and objectify ourselves and each other? We could share our fears and overcome them together, become warriors of expression and speech. What if we were God all along? All of us together, the creators and destroyers of all things. We can make change because God's hands are our hands. What if systems of oppression were dismantled? What if we abolished the police and the prison industrial complex? It will not be enough. That is only the beginning. Erase the borders of nations, states, counties, remove the names from every place. But at the heart of our struggle, we must depolice ourselves and stop policing each other. Otherwise, utopia equals fascism. A world where fear dictates our every breath. I'm just a foolish artist, a lost minstrel, a scribe with no pen. So hark! The age is ripe with tension. The dawn is literally on fire. What if we stood up for ourselves? What if we had the strength to do that? Just stand up, raise a fist, and cry again, louder for freedom.
End of play.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So that was our radio play titled Proclamation of the Utopian States of America. We have a bit of an audience on our Facebook live stream. Hello to everyone who is watching this from Facebook. Thank you so much for your attendance and for your support. Now we would like to move into a post-performance discussion together with the audience. So for our Facebook viewers, if you check the comments on the right side of the live stream, you will find that the link to enter our Zoom room is provided in that chat along with the passcode to get in. We strongly invite any audience members who are watching from Facebook who are able to join us in this Zoom room to enter, and we would love to hear any feedback or questions from you as the audience. With that said, I will be moderating the comments on Facebook a little bit, and I'd like to pass the mic over to one of my colleagues. Maybe someone can talk a little bit about this script, this process, how this was for you, and how this process has perhaps changed you. And I will be pulling up comments from our live stream guests.
I'll say something quick that I just feel like on the tip of my tongue. It's just after reading this, after a number of times, you know, it's really great. I'm still with this feeling of, whoa, this is awesome. We are making this artistic endeavor into these questions, these really difficult questions. And we're not just talking about how we feel, we're talking about what can actually be changed in our society. And it's just been so exciting to be a part of that process and to actually look at constitutional documents, to look at the amendments. Because that's not something that was encouraged for me in my education. And in this mentored study, we really dove into these documents, the wording that I don't know, is taken for granted. And so I feel really good. I feel really enthused about what we are engaging with here, the process that we're in, and just a lot of gratitude for everyone for engaging with this. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ruth, for the curriculum, the structure of the script. And it was also really great how I personally felt very supported and encouraged in the way that Ruth gave us the structure and sort of like the idea that came with the structure. And then she said, but do what you need with it. And so it wasn't like, here's the prompt and input your words here. It was like, here's the prompt. Now what comes alive for you? And that's what happened in this play. And it was so unexpected and so alive, and it's still alive for me. And so that's a little bit of feedback right off the top of my head.
Thank you, Sivan. Yeah, not to volunteer anyone in my co-research team, but I do want to recognize the fact that there is a co-researcher and student in our cohort who has been part of this process from a different state throughout this entire co-scripting and research experience. This co-researcher of mine is an extremely committed and generous artist. She has dedicated a lot of time outside of her work as a teacher to be here and to be part of this very vulnerable and transparent sharing process of creating art together for the purpose of causing social change and a change in thinking and expression. So with that said, I would really like to ask my colleague, my peer researcher, and another fellow educator to just say a little bit about her own experience with this. Llasiea, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you for that lovely introduction. I caught me off guard. Yeah, I think this was a really great journey. I will say, as Cooper mentioned, I do a lot of social justice work as an artist, a lot of, and in my education work as well. So this work is kind of like what I do, you know, just doing shows that obviously have a purpose, that make the audience think and to vision, right, you know, futures. And so I thought this was a really cool process, and especially co-scripting in this way with 3 other people. And like Cooper said, in various time zones and in various, you know, work, school, life balance that we all had. So it was really incredible to be in process without also being in process. So I didn't know what everyone was contributing all the time. Same with me. And so then to just see it all come together was really, really cool. Like the first time we read through, I was just like, yeah, that's the play. Like, that's it. This is it. This is it. So it's just really amazing when you have that this feeling of liberation and free flowing creativity, and not being so attached to like, what's the product and what is this supposed to be, and just everyone kind of, I think of it as like a blank canvas, and everyone's just throwing paint, yo. And then at the end, we got some Picasso up there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun collaborating with all of these lovely humans.
Thank you, Llasiea. Yeah, thank you so much for your commitment and generosity over the process of coming together and creating this shared piece of art. It really feels like not one of us can even own this. So there is another peer co-researcher in our midst who is a very talented writer. I am so proud to have worked with this person in many capacities. Jaco is a playwright and has taken a lot of creative expression and personal sort of liberty in creating these really beautiful vignettes of life, just various forms of living and the human experience. So without further ado, I'd like to hand the microphone over to my friend and colleague Jaco Schiller to explain a little bit about his experience with this as well.
Thank you so much for that, Cooper. Yeah, this particular project has been really kind of like the budding of collaborative autoethnographic research and participatory action research, all the things that we've been talking about with Ruth, with our mentor, really since the beginning. And I have a strong connection to this piece because I wrote what we performed on Sunday. Guerrilla Script was sort of, I was seeing this as sort of this being the continuation of Guerrilla Script, because we have the end of the performance, there's usually a post discussion where questions arise about how do we envision and generate utopia in such a polarized world today, where we disagree, and if we associate with the people we disagree with, then we're shunned. It's a horrible thing to interact with people with different ideas for some reason. So I think that this is, I love this piece so much, just in making that bridge into what's next? How do we envision moving forward, and how do we actually move forward? And I think just having the multiple voices in the virtual space, in the blog space, and for those of us that could be together in person, is so important to generate knowledge as a collective body. That is what collaborative autoethnography is all about, is getting away from the cultural norms and constructs, our own biases, environmental, cultural biases, that really restrict us to having a more dynamic understanding of the world. So thank you so much, everyone, for your work with this project. It's been super, super informative for me.
I'd like to hop off of that and share a little bit about one of the explorations that we did. One of Ruth's prompts for us was, what was the actual title? But the sentiment was a view from the other side. So as difficult as it is to admit, I until somewhat recently have not really considered the amount of space that my culture takes up in the world, and that is very problematic. This came up a little bit in the radio play, if we're not aware of the culture that we inhabit, that informs us, that we take with us to other parts of the world, that are in other parts of the world, that in some cases, in this case, colonize other parts of the world, what hope is there to help anything? And so there is this prompt, a view from the other side, and we chose a relevance, an area on the globe that is in some way related to us, but at the same time very, very distant from us. So I looked at personally the embodiment of patriarchy in West Africa. Part of my lineage goes all the way back to West Africa. And we looked at how today, someone my same age, but in a different cultural context, how that person views the United States. And that opened up so much dialogue within myself, within this cohort, just about the danger in being blind to one's own culture. And so it's just been so informative, and I realized that it's something that a lot of people that I know really need to engage in this. It's a global awareness, is what it is. It's situating oneself within the social fabric of the globe, and with that, it tells us, it informs our behavior, it informs our decisions toward a global responsibility. So I have really enjoyed this aspect of the process as well.
Yeah, I fully echo everything that's been said by all of my co-researchers. I think perhaps it is clear to see that we are all very well versed with each other. We have a very good flow to our conversations, and I think this is what happens when trust is built on a research team, where people feel free to share their personal stories and their own physical sensations, the thoughts that are coming up, and any emotions that are arising. And with that, that poses some challenges. There are some unique challenges to collaborative autoethnography. We all have, praised this incredible methodology, this research tool so far in our discussion. And I think it's important to acknowledge and bring some awareness to some of the challenges that have arisen for us in this research. As we mentioned, this research was done from multiple geographic locations in the United States by students who are at different levels of their higher education in obtaining degrees. And one thing I'd like to just say is that in learning how to do collaborative autoethnography, that also helped form my vision of what Utopia really needed in order to be democratic and creative, full of art, adaptive, reflexive, ethical. So some of the unique challenges is that we had to, first of all, establish what our shared goal kind of was. Ruth provided a prompt. Ruth gave us questions and gave us a sort of template for a script. But ultimately, the performers tonight very much had ownership and equitable voice and shared authority over what our goal really was going to be, what the product was going to be like, and how the process was even going to be played out amongst us. So I'd say logistically, that's kind of one thing, getting timelines together. And, there was one point during this process where I think everyone had jumped onto our collaborative Google document, and it was like maybe 1 a.m. midnight, probably 2 for some people. And we did not plan at all on all being there on this document at the same time. But it was like late at night, you could tell that there was just a group of young artists who were up late at night, couldn't sleep, wanted to go, check out their script. And instead of flicking on Netflix or, something like that, we created our own entertainment for ourselves and for each other, even in the middle of the night, which is just very funny. So setting up, timelines and getting people to get onto the Google document together at the same time sometimes it has to be shared. It has to be very equitable and transparent in that sort of sense. Another sort of challenge that ties into that was like getting that trust without coercion, following a non-coercive model of ethical inquiry and simply supporting each other, not just in this work, but by watching each other's other works and garnering inspiration from the other pieces that we have done as artists and what we're currently working on, the projects that are unfolding, in a few months from now, maybe a year from now. All of this really played a part in building that trust amongst ourselves to show up to that Google document and not just necessarily copy and paste a finished product, from one other screen onto our shared document, but to really actually craft this document live in front of each other, typing little notes and feedback, suggestions, and inspirations into the margins of this document together. I'm sure the chat history of our script is like, could be a gallery and in and of itself as far as collaborative autoethnographic dramaturgy goes. And I'd like to open up, were there any other specific challenges that any of my co-researchers encountered that you feel were unique to this process or to this group, whether we overcame them or are still limited by them? I invite you all to share how that was and some of those unique challenges perhaps that come with this specific tool for research.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in because I was going to jump in actually after what Sivan had said and just provide perspective, especially on the anniversary of George Floyd's death / murder. As a Black person in America, there were times where this was actually very challenging, and also the prompts were like, "This is not my America." So even though we have, some perspectives that are, looking globally and all, and which is necessary and very important, I feel like obviously as a country, we tend to not look at the shit we got going on. And then sometimes, and I've had other conversations about this just professionally in spaces where people forget that there are some people who don't look at America the same. Like there isn't, I think I mentioned it in that very first piece I had at the opening of like, back in the day, having all this pride about America because of what is taught in your education system, and then realizing like, no, wait a minute, like there's so much that's problematic, and then we're seeing it still trying to get the George Floyd act even passed at this point still. So there's a lot of problems in America, and it's hard. I'm a very optimistic person, I like to say, and usually very just try to keep a positive outlook, and also continue to see Black and brown people being killed by the police, continue to see things that have not changed. And so it's hard sometimes to like, utopia what? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't exist for all people in America in a way that we would hope it would, but we see time and time again, we're shut down. So I just think that's was really important as far as perspective to provide that, like, some of the prompts, it's like, my USA, this isn't I can't say my to USA. It's not my USA. I don't always feel like it's my USA. So those were just some of my personal challenges, especially within, the time we're living in right now in the past year. And also, and I don't know if you had already said this, but I'm in the program that is led by Patrisse Cullors, who's the co-founder of Black Lives Matter. So like all we talk about all day, in our classes is just liberation of Black people and abolition and all these things. So when that's also being ingrained in you in education, in higher education, which I think is also just hats off to my program, hats off to Ruth as well, that like all of my educators for my program anyway, have all been educators of color and artists of color. And so that I've never had that in my entire life. So I'm just highlighting that as well, because, I know as an educator myself, I'm always highlighting that I'm often the only Black educator, whether it's theater or just otherwise, that kids have. And so to kind of see the needle move forward and having more diversity in educators to provide more diverse curriculum, kind of like what Ruth has provided here, is really, really important as well. I know that was like 2 or 3 things. It was a challenge and a highlight. So
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of any challenges with collaborative autoethnography. I feel like just so many of the challenges and difficulties were they were overcome in collaborative autoethnography, as opposed to a lot of confusion and just feeling really conflicted about autoethnography, which is criticized, that like, oh, you're just going to study yourself, you lazy egotistical person. Like, I think there's a great quote from criticized as self-absorbed narcissists who don't fulfill scholarly obligations of hypothesizing, analyzing, and theorizing. But you can't, for me at least, I don't think that you can enter a collaborative autoethnography research space without doing autoethnography first, without understanding who you are, what your identity is in the cultural context of life. Can you then come in and have some informed sense of who you are as a person in a more relational way? This is what distinguishes autoethnography from autobiography, is that it's very focused on culture, and relational concerns as like a dimension of inquiry. And I love the impermanent nature of autoethnography and collaborative ethnography, that it's about really challenging this crisis of confidence in knowledge, where anything is true with a compelling argument. That's not, I don't identify or feel a connection with that. That is like, you could say anything, and if you speak well, and that's not what knowledge is to me. That's not what what truth is to me. And I think having that collaborative space for everyone to have a voice is so crucial in talking about things like culture and like cultural identity, because we get very misconstrued ideas in our isolation, especially in the United States. We're so isolated, and yet we have such, like Sivan was saying, we have so much weight over other cultures and nations in the world. And so, yeah, this collaborative space has to be there to have these conversations in a way that we're not confined to our own biases about our culture and about ourselves.
Yeah, there's it's been an interesting journey for me as a performance artist / educator to compare and contrast the tools of discourse for like academia versus participatory arts. Like autoethnography is kind of like, it seems like it's a little bit looked down upon now, maybe, like in a contemporary sort of way. Like, of course, everything has its pros and cons, but definitely when I would first Google something like autoethnography, when I was first emerging in this style of research, it would be like a bunch of articles talking about how like horrible it is, and how it's like still perpetuating like colonialism and colonization of the mind, and like authority of knowledge, and like gatekeeping of knowledge. And yeah, I'm not like for or against. I think there's definitely best practices, and I think turning autoethnography into a more collaborative function is one way to sort of avoid some of that like solipsism, or like isolation of autoethnography. That was one thing that I really found in this experience, is that like the multiple perspectives coming from committed, generous co-researcher artists to co-own and share the authority of what this product will be. I think that really helped to work through some of those ethical issues of like, I did self-analysis, I thought a lot about myself, and like I read more about myself and I read about someone else, but that's how it's like me. Is like the only way I can understand this character I'm reading about in this other play is how it relates to me, instead of being able to really explore how we might be different, and letting that have its own weight, before really going in and just seeking only intersectionalities, but rather having multiple perspectives, and this view from the other side, really having this, I don't even know how I could explain this because I'm still emerging so much in this field and in this research, but that there is an other, and that's okay. There can be other. We are all unique. We have different talents, and the thing is, every body is vulnerable to something, we're just vulnerable to something different than perhaps someone from somewhere else. But we all have vulnerabilities. We all have a body that can feel pain, and we all have a heart that can break. You know, we all could really imagine grief, whether it's a pet or a family member. We can find commonalities even within those sort of othering, those lines that divide us, whether it's geographically or even across time. You know, somebody is gone perhaps, but their work still exists. Yeah, I found that to be probably one of the more like beneficial reasons to do the autoethnography collaboratively. And I just can't say thank you enough to my team of co-researchers for all of the trust, vulnerability, effort, generosity, and commitment that went into this piece. With that said, I would like to open up the floor again to the actors to say any other comments or questions that they'd like to pose before we keep going.
Yeah, before we transition to our next performance, so thinking about challenges and Cooper, you just brought me back to Illasiea's point of my USA and then the other, and we're talking about if we are US citizens and there is another, does that mean that that there is a we? Like who that like trying the challenge that I'm trying to talk about now is that it also was hard for me to even begin to conceptualize the other and we, because we are all so different by race, class, everything else, but also just based on geographic location within the United States. It all gives way to a different way of seeing and living. And so it is really hard to say like my utopia or the vision, or we should look outside and see like our responsibilities outside of the United States when it is when there are so many issues still yet to be dealt with here within the United States. And I think it's such a difficult conversation or issue to endeavor into because there is just so much complexity and so many differences among each other that I don't even know if it's possible to say there is a we, or there is, I don't even know if it's possible to really identify an objective us like as a nation. And that's something important to keep in mind for myself moving forward.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Okay. I was just gonna say I totally agree with that. Like, who is us in the context of the United States? And I mean, that's something that I found myself reflecting on what I wrote about our USA, which is like we're afraid of connection with each other. We're very comfortable in our isolation because it we like to feel individual, we like to feel original. I myself, as an artist, I don't want to be inspired by anyone or anything. I want to be totally my own thing, and like it's like that's just not possible. And we've really perpetuated that myth in United States culture. Yeah, again, I would just echo, like, that's why collaborative work is so important to overcome that isolation in the way that we think. Yeah,
I totally agree. And it's weird because I started thinking, and I think I noticed this time when we were reading through, of like the repetition in some of the things I said. And it just kind of, as Cooper was talking about, just in autoethnography and just like stripping down the basics of like who you are and your thought process, So the word empathy came up so many times because I think, and this is a whole other thing, but like recently I had a family member who was like, "You're an empath." And I'm like, "What is an empath?" And then she gave me this whole book and I'm like, "Oh, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's traits." But maybe even just as an artist and just an actor who has to play different roles, it's like just always having this empathy. So even in the they, as Sivan was saying, I personally couldn't conceptualize a they. I haven't grown up thinking of a they. If anything, I've been another. And even, it's funny because like literally last week I was in this situation and it's supposed to be like an abolition training, for teachers in the classroom. And one of the first questions they asked was something about like how people feel about the default culture. And like there's maybe only 3 Black people on the call and we're like, well, what is the default culture? And I of course had to speak up and raise the awareness level of like, if you're wanting us to all think in the frame of white people, I think you need to be very explicit about that. Because if you would have posed that question to a group of kids of color, middle schoolers, high schoolers, they're like, well, the default is white, like that in itself is not abolition, and it's very colonial in just the question. And their follow-up was like that they had like, oh yeah, we'll send what the definition is. And I was like, well, that's where there's a problem, because there should be no definition of a default culture. And as Ruth has always mentioned, and I just was like, some of us who are very have a lot of pride about our culture and our heritage don't think white is default. And so you're making an assumption that everyone is on the same path of like, what is default? And I threw in like Atlanta, for instance. I was like, you ask people in Atlanta that same question, they're going to look around and they're not going to say default is white. They're going to say Black. They might say Georgia is white. And we all know, obviously, America, yes, yes, yes. But it was like, it was just the framing and the context of the conversation. And that, again, if this is an abolition training, just be explicit that we're talking about white people. That's okay. That white people can feel like not other, but just like we're talking about this group of people and we're not calling you the default because you're perpetuating that. So anyway, I just think in how I was framing a lot of my answers to the prompts, and even again the they, it's like I don't even know. Every time I hit the they, it was like they're like me, they're human like me, we are one. It was always this very, I don't see people as other, and I don't know if that's good or bad, because I don't know if that's the same as like I don't see color, because that's not the same. I don't even know why I said that, but like I don't operate with othering people on a day-to-day basis. So
It's a really good question to identify other, to identify we, us. But I think it's important because it instantly points out right off the bat, I think, our biases.
Awesome. Well, if my ensemble has any other words to say, the mic is open for us. Awesome. So I personally would like to take a bit of an intermission. How about we come back in 5 minutes for our next performance, which is going to be a very inspiring piece of music written and performed by my friend Sydney, and a co-artist who has done research as well over these past few months and has created an original music piece. So let's return all together for the second performance. We'll return in 5 minutes. For me, that looks like 7:27. You can adjust that first number to whatever time zone you're in, but 5 minutes from now, we'll come back and enter the room. Thank you all. Okay, hello everyone. We are just returning from a short intermission. We just finished our first performance for the evening, a co-scripted radio play by the Performance Lab members, Proclamation of the Utopian States of America. So with that said, as people are tuning back in, I am going to cue up our next performance, which is a song that was originally composed and performed by my co-artist and friend, Syd Roy. This song came out of a personal experience, a personal narrative of struggle, in fact, with local law enforcement. So with that said, let us jump in and watch and listen.
What does the cup in my head say when there's a cup right in my face? The one in my head says you're not tough. The one in my face threatens me with the cuffs. And all cups say, fuck your revolution, you know there's no solution. So give up your constitutional rights and don't fight, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight. Fucking submit. Fucking quit. Your dreams of peace? Oh, we the police have eyes on you. Shut up. Abolish the police, abolish the police, abolish the police, abolish the police, please. Hey, 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 hey. We gotta stand up off our knees. There's no time to plead. With the rise of our numbers comes the strength of our force. Resistance is our source. So brothers and sisters, me and more, I know we feel so far. Just remember, see the same stars. We shall overcome together. When we, the artists, are activated, our lives, our activism. I will carry that vision, the sorrow, the anger, the rage, for all of us. It is my privilege to speak our truths for the silenced and our youth. It is my privilege to speak our truths for the silenced and our youth. Coming together, we won't surrender. We shall overcome. Oh, oh, coming together, we won't surrender. We shall overcome. Oh, 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 oh. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Oh, oh. We shall overcome. We shall overcome together.
Awesome. Oops. Okay, that was our second performance for the evening, Overcome / Cop in My Head by Syd Roy. Thank you so much for your generosity in sharing that performance with us for this digital festival, Sydney. Speaking of this digital festival, this is the end of our 3-day journey together on our rendition of Intersection Solo Festival. These past few days have been an incredible journey of overcoming challenges together, rising to the challenge of performing a digital festival as young artists, working together with artists from previous generations who have done extreme transformative radical art for the purpose of causing social change and transformation of thinking and expression in audiences. So with that said, our final performance, not just for this evening, but for our 3-day long digital festival, I would love to introduce another artist that I have had the extreme honor of working with for the past half a year. This is Gigi performing Midsummer Night's Dream, Act 5, Scene 1.
If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. That you have slumbered here, and these visions did appear. And this week an ideal theme, no more yielding, but a dream. Gents, do not reprehend. If you pardon, we will mend. And as I, an honest Puck, if we have unearned luck now to escape the serpent's tongue, we will make amends ere long. Else the Puck a liar called. So good night unto you all, and give me your hands. If we be friends, the robin shall store amends.
Beautiful.
Woo! So much wax just
Yes.
Thank you so much, Gigi. That was beautiful.
Hello.
Puck.
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 Puck. Can one of you turn the lights on, actually? Yeah. Sorry. I got a little crew here with me.
Yes, I agree. Great closer.
Yeah.
Very sweet way to end.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, Gigi, do you have any final thoughts or words or feelings you'd like to express? I know you've been extremely committed to this festival through and through, and this is just so beautiful that you are able to be here to offer that beautiful closing.
Yeah, so this poem, when it was brought to me, I don't know, like 2-3 days ago, this is a very recent, like, hey, this is how we're gonna close this, and we want you to close it. Oh my gosh, sorry, wax is like everywhere. I was really excited for this. I really enjoy William Shakespeare, and I want to keep learning William Shakespeare. And being able to do this rendition of my own character, Puck, who is this mischievous person that's caused mischief the whole entire show, but also is like, let's make amends before we leave, was something that was like really fun to explore, even though I didn't have as much time exploring. And a lot of this was like made day, like a lot of this whole thing is made today. And I like, even just like in the few hours that I had to like get ready for this, I learned so much, not only about myself, but like as this character who is quite frankly the quite opposite of me, and being someone who is, like I've said recently, like I've only been here for 4-5 months. I'm a sophomore now in college, and this is like the first time I felt like in a group where I'm truly needed and wanted, and to now be able to dress up in one of my, not only do I consider them like a great friend, but as one of my colleagues, like sitting in their kitchen looking crazy is truly, truly life changing. But yeah, half of this, if not almost all of this, couldn't, like, costume wise, couldn't have been done without, like, with Haley, who, bless this woman's soul, has like went through all of this and made this costume and planned this costume, and all I had to do was just sit there and, yeah, I'm wearing it, but I'm not, I should not be getting credit for all this. This festival is a lot of fun. There was challenges, and I think we all came out of this a lot stronger. So that's intersection.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gigi.
Thank you.
There is so much to learn always. And that leads me to give a huge amount of gratitude to the artist leaders and mentors who have helped us with this project, even just from months back or maybe years ago, who have inspired us to reflect deeper upon ourselves within society and culture, and to reach out and empathize, to find ways that we can come together and share our experiences in beautiful and uncomfortable ways, even sometimes through art. So, J. Ruby, once again, thank you so much for all of your support and your hand in helping to craft this festival. All of your hard work and dedication to keeping arts alive in our community is so profound, and we just can't thank you enough. I certainly want to continue to live in a creative world, so continuation of the arts is so, so necessary if we are going to make any kind of changes for how we see each other and ourselves in the world. Another huge shout out to Ruth Ponkstefone, a mentor who has been working with so many of these actors from their emergence in this sort of theatrical expression, teaching us to use gesture and language together, ethical inquiry and collaborative autoethnography, democratic directing. Thank you so much for your dedication to all of us individually and collectively, Ruth. We really, really appreciate all of the extra time, all of the midnight, texts about assignments and weird random questions that pop up in our heads as your students that we just can't wait to share with you and get out. You are one of the fastest responders I've ever had the pleasure of being a student of, and I just want to also say thank you for that, Ruth. You are so reachable and always willing to go the extra mile for your students, so thank you. Dove Schiller helped with some of the musical direction, as well as Jaco Schiller. Thank you both. Your family's musical talents are such a gift to the world, and so many of the musical components of this piece have been able to reach the point of presentation that they were at because of your willingness and generosity to step in even when you had a lot going on. So thank you again to Jaco and Dove Schiller for the musical direction for this festival in so many ways. And all of the other professors, teachers, friends, family, and other important people in our lives who have inspired us to come to the stage and just be ourselves for, a certain amount of time in a world that is really, really difficult. It's wonderful to know that there is a space that we can share together here to just be ourselves and other than ourselves, even at times, embodiment. So with that said, thank you all so much for attending our rendition of Intersection Solo Digital Festival 2021. This wraps up our festival experience. If you have any lingering questions or comments that you would like to share, please follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Prescott, what is it? Oh gosh, I'm on it right now. Prescott College Performance Laboratory. Prescott College Performance Laboratory. We are always updating this Facebook page, even though some students may be graduating and are not going to continue to be directly uploading work to that page. It is co-owned by the students of the mentored study and of the theater department at Prescott College. So if you're interested in continuing to attend digital events or attending, sometimes we have in-person events too with social distancing and other CDC guidelines to stay safe. We invite you to follow us on Facebook. We also have other social media. We have an Instagram as well. Our social media coordinator, Jaco, can give all the information to that. Our Instagram has a lot of our past performances and other cool, just kind of behind the scenes stuff that helps to reveal how we do what we do. And we also have a blog that you can visit, the Prescott College, what's it called? Performance Laboratory blog. That is linked on our Facebook as well. You can go read more, some of the resources that we've used in generating these performances that you've seen this weekend and yesterday and today. So thank you all so much for your support. We young artists are just trying to step onto a stage that has already been prepared for us by generations of artists past, and we are extremely grateful for the opportunity to perform for all of our audience members through this festival. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.